One of the best things about special music is, one of my favorite things when I know I'm being ministered to by special music is when the days I'm supposed to preach and I kind of forget what I'm supposed to be like, oh wait, that's me next. And I'm able to like totally live in the moment of the special music, and I appreciate that. And just the words of the song that Aaron was playing there, prone to wander. I often think about that as part of the human condition is we're prone to wander. And as we do so, it's especially telling that in the society we live, I think oftentimes, because of all the comforts we have, it's so easy for us to not rely on the Lord because we have so many things we need. And so we take for granted all the Lord offers. For our scripture reading today, when we're reading from Matthew, and we're going to spend a lot of time in Matthew today, just so you know. But I'll be reading Matthew chapter 16, verses 25 and 26. In the last 4 weeks, I spent half of that time at church camps, and so you're gonna hear, if you were at any of those camps, I apologize up front. You're gonna hear some basically the greatest hits of what we've talked about the last few weeks at church camps that I've been to. But it's all about following Jesus and picking up your cross and following him. And so in that endeavor, if you turn to Matthew 16, 25 and 26, and some of you, whether you're at camp or not, might have some of this memorized. I know that you're going to junior boys camp later this week. Those young men are asked to know one of these verses, and at a couple camps that I was at, we worked on memorizing the second verse here, so it'll be familiar to many of you. Then said Jesus unto his disciples, if any man will come after me, let him deny himself, and take up his cross and follow me. And now for a man to take up his cross is to deny himself all ungodliness and every worldly lust, and keep my commandments. Truly Jesus is. And truly he loves each and every one of you. And he seeks for you to follow him and to pick up your cross. First thing we're going to do is I'm going to be a teacher for a minute. And we're going to do a little self-assessment of our spiritual walk. And so I love today's bulletin, not for the reason any of you might think. I love it when there are blank sides on the bulletin, because that means I can write stuff, I can put notes down here. So I love it. So grab your bulletins, if you will, if you have a pencil or a pen. I'm going to ask you a series of questions. I want you to kind of think and reflect on these questions. Like I said, this is the best bulletin I think we've had at Colburn in months, with 2 blank sides. I seriously can't remember. I mean, they do such a good job of not having blank sides here that I was pretty excited when there were 2. I know Eldon doesn't like it when you use your bulletin for stuff like this, but I do. So, and it's not scriptural either way. So, this is which color you're going to paint the sanctuary type of question. So I like it, and I'm preaching today. So pull out your bulletin, use a blank side. I'm going to ask you 5 questions, and these questions are to try to get you to think about your spiritual walk and how you're doing. And the first one, and these are hard. I'm going to be up front. Like these are not, like I'm not asking, these are not going to be really easy questions to answer honestly. They weren't for me and they aren't for me. And so as with any message, I think that I speak or that I preach, this is a message to me. And it's trying to help, it's trying to preach it myself to be a better person and a better follower of Christ. The first one is, did I fill my mind with spiritual thoughts and refrain from distractions when I began the day? I'm going to read it again, and then I want you to kind of write kind of your thoughts about your day so far. Did I fill my mind with spiritual thoughts and refrain from distractions when I began the day? Second one, have I set aside time for prayer, or have I been lazy? Have I set aside time for prayer, or have I been lazy? Third question. Have I walked by faith and remembered God throughout the day? Have I walked by faith and remembered God throughout the day? The next one, which we'll talk about some scriptures about it here in a minute, but fourth one is, have I multiplied what God has given me? Have I multiplied what God has given me? And our last reflection question is, have I lived in a way to share Christ today? Have I lived in a way to share Christ today? As I was preparing for some of the camps this summer, I stumbled upon, there was a list of 13 questions that were kind of like on this vein, kind of like an end of the day reflection. And these were just 5 of those 13. And I don't know about you, but life, modern life, and maybe life of all time is so consuming. It's so easy to have job, family, entertainment, all these things fill our days. And we're really good at filling our days with stuff. Maybe that's me. I'm really good at filling my day with stuff, and it's like I struggle with setting time apart to take time to really pray. Recently I was thinking about I almost brought, it was just too much work and it didn't seem like it was going to be that productive and the way I could display it, but I was thinking about bringing a box of cereal and placing it on one side and having a whole spread of like a huge breakfast on the other. Because the Lord asks us to feast upon the words of Christ. And when I think about feasting, it's more than just sustainment. It's more than just a simple nourishment. So it's not like just having a bowl of cereal for breakfast and calling it good. A feast would be, for me at least, a feast of breakfast would be like some biscuits and gravy and maybe like a couple fried eggs and some bacon. Like that would be a feast for breakfast for me. Be a lot of calories for my whole day, but it would be a really good feast of breakfast. That would be a feast. And we're asked to feast upon the words of Christ. How often do we really just like snack upon the words of Christ? Or maybe munch on the words of Christ and not feast on them? And I think of, when I go back to that idea of feasting, I think of like just making them part of me. Like really just digging in. And it's hard. It's hard because we do have so many distractions and so many things that are trying to draw us away. And some of those are intentional. I think that the adversary uses a lot of things to try to distract us from following Jesus. I think some of those are incidental. They're just things that happen. But the Lord wants us to put our whole selves into him. Now we're going to spend a little bit of time in Matthew chapter 25. And so if you have your scriptures and you want to turn to Matthew 25, we're going to go through much of Matthew 25. Because I like to break things up a little bit, I have some volunteers who are going to help me act out Matthew 25, part of Matthew 25. And so I'd ask that if you were one of my people that I have gotten to volunteer told, if you'd come on up and make sure if you're in Aunt Sue's class, remember your tools. And so come on down. All right, good. All right. So far, nobody's gotten scared. Yeah, we're good. All right. What you? All right, you're welcome to follow along with us. As you notice, because of who showed up at Sunday school and was there when we started Sunday school, we only have 8 virgins today. And so we'll have 4 wise and 4 foolish. We won't have a full 10, but I think that the visual will still work. And so when I read it, I will probably still read 5. I might try to, if I think about it, I'll try to correct it 4 wise and 4 foolish. But just so you know, visualize an extra on each of the wise and foolish. I will also say, you'll probably guess pretty soon who the wise and foolish are. And so that was, I figured it would be more fun to have the senior high kids be what they are. I mean, well, in the play, not necessarily what they are in real life. Like, clearly, they're all wise-ish. All right, so Matthew 25, if you want to follow along, you can. And then at that day, before the Son of Man comes, the kingdom of heaven shall be likened unto 10 or 8 virgins who took their lamps and went forth to meet the bridegroom. You'll have to imagine lamps. We had some lamps we were thinking about doing, but they were really heavy, and we didn't want to mess with it. So we have something other than we'll have another part that's helpful, but we don't have the lamps themselves. They that were, and 5 of them were wise, and 5 of them were foolish. You can guess who's which is which. They that were foolish took their lamps and took no oil with them. So you can see who has their oil. But the wise took oil in their vessels with their lamps. While the bridegroom tarried, they slumbered and slept. Not yet. Not yet. You're tarrying. You're not going anyplace yet. You're tarrying. Man. Maybe he should have been a different group for this. And at midnight, there was a cry made.
Behold, the bridegroom cometh. Go ye out to meet him.
Not yet. Then all the virgins arose and trimmed their lamps. And the foolish said unto the wise, Give us of your oil, for our lamps are gone out. But the wise answered, saying, Lest there be not enough for us and you, go ye rather out to them that sell, and buy for yourselves. And while they went to buy, the bridegroom came. He wasn't here for rehearsal. And they that were ready went in with him to the marriage, and the door was shut. They like to try to sneak in the door, so I'm waiting to make sure it's shut. Afterward came also the other virgins, saying, Lord, Lord, open unto us. Uh-oh. But he answered and said, Verily I say unto you, you know me not. Watch therefore, for you know neither the day nor the hour wherein the Son of Man cometh. Thank you, guys. You can go and sit down. A couple notes about this parable. One, I think a lot of times when we, and maybe it's just modern Christian society, likes to think of all the times when Jesus talked about all the super merciful things and didn't talk about consequences. Because we're asked to be ready. We're asked to prepare. The second thing is, by using the idea of virgins, it was implying the idea that these were all people that were trying to do the right thing. It wasn't like we're talking five, or in our case, 4 people that were Christians and 4 non-Christians. These are all people that were trying to follow the Lord, or at least said they were following the Lord, but weren't doing a good job preparing. And I think it's also interesting that like Matthew 25 is just like a stack of parables. Each one really focusing on the idea that we as followers of Christ have a duty and we're supposed to be doing things. And so we're going to keep going in chapter 25. Thank you very much to my volunteers who all came up and didn't cause me standing up here by myself saying they were volunteers. So in Matthew 25:13, so he has a parable of the 10 virgins. And I love how he says, now I liken these things into a parable. And so he had a parable and he says, all right, I'm going to keep going. Here's a parable on top of a parable. For it is like as a man traveling into a far country who called his own servants and delivered unto them his goods. And so once again, it's his own servants. It's people that were employed by him, just like we're followers of Christ and should be serving him. And unto one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1, to every man according to his several ability, and straightway went on his journey. In today's, and like in our modern renditions of this, we'll think of talents in the modern term of a talent, or like an ability or a gift or something like that. Scripturally speaking, a talent was a measure of gold. It was actually a money, as a numerical thing of gold. But I think the analogy of using a talent to be a gift is perfectly appropriate. But just so you know that when he's talking talent, he's talking like a chunk of money. And a talent was a decent chunk of money. And so it wasn't a small chunk of money. I also think it's fascinating, and anybody here ever been jealous of somebody else's talents? Or anybody been jealous that somebody might have more of something than you do? Like I have been jealous before. There's people's talents that have have no artistic talent whatsoever. I can't draw a stick figure hardly. I just have no artistic talents. But like some people that can do art, it's amaze me. And so many of the musical talents that people share, it's just incredible. But here we have differing amounts of talents, and I think it's interesting. It's like some people are jealous of different things, like because Lord gave us different amounts of intelligence. Like some people are smarter than others, some people are gifted in other ways, and we have to be okay with that. And the Lord doesn't ask us to be somebody else. He doesn't ask the person that had 2 talents to make it up to 5. He asks them to increase your talents, which we'll get to in a second. And to one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, to another 1, to every man according to his several ability, and straightway went on his journey. So he gave 5, 2, and 1, which I think is just fascinating. And I think he understood people. That's the way it is. Like in life, we have different amounts of talents. Then he that had received the 5 talents went and traded with the same and gained another 5 talents. And so in modern vernacular, a lot of time we liken that to practicing and doing things and increasing your talents, and doing those things are going to make your talent more manifest to the Lord. And likewise, he who received 2 talents, he also gained another 2. But he who had received 1 went and digged in the earth and hid his Lord's money. And after a long time, the Lord of those servants cometh and reckoneth with them. And so he that had received the 5 talents came and brought another 5 talents, saying, Lord, thou deliverest unto me 5 talents. Behold, I have gained beside them 5 talents more. His Lord said unto him, Well done, good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over these things, have been faithful over a few things. I will make thee ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joy of the Lord. And he also that received 2 talents came and said, Lord, thou deliverest unto me 2 talents. Behold, I have gained 2 talents besides them. And his Lord said unto him, Well done, good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things, and I will make thee ruler over many things. Enter thou unto the joy of the Lord. And then he that received the 1 talent came and said, Lord, I knew thee, that thou art a hard man, reaping where thou hast not sown, and gathering where thou hast not scattered. And I was afraid, and I went and hid thy talent in the earth. And lo, here is thy talent. Take it from me, as thou hast from thine other servants, for it is thine. His Lord answered and said unto him, O wicked and slothful servant, thou knowest that I reap where I sowed not, and gather where I have not scattered. Having known this, therefore, thou oughtest to have put my money to the exchangers, and at my coming I should have received mine own with usury. I will take, therefore, the talent from you, and give it unto him who hath 10 talents. For unto every one who hath obtained their other talent shall be given, and he shall have an abundance. But from him that hath not obtained other talents shall be taken away from that which he hath received. So if you have space on your piece of paper, I want you to think about what talents you have. And I want you to think of what you're going to do to increase those. We can't just sit on them. And so I'm going to give you about a minute, which is going to seem like 15. But I'm going to give you a little bit of time to write down what talents you think you have and what you can do to increase those. Anybody want to share what you were going to do to share your talents or increase your talents? You don't have to, but does anybody want to share? So nobody was public speaking, I guess. All right, so my challenge to you is to this week, I want you to multiply your talent. Now that doesn't mean that you're going to double it in a week. But I want you to figure out a way to whatever talents you have to increase them this week. Don't procrastinate. I'm a great procrastinator. My wife can attest to that. I love to procrastinate. I shouldn't, but that's something I need to work on. We're going to keep going. We're going to skip a little bit ahead. we're going to stick in Matthew 25. And at this point, the Lord has divided people on his right hand and his left. The king has people on the right hand are the righteous and who are going to come into his rest, and the left are those who haven't. And so we're at 35. Then shall the king say unto them on his right hand, Come, ye blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was an hungered, and ye gave me meat. I was thirsty, and ye gave me drink. I was a stranger, and ye took me in. Naked, and ye clothed me. I was sick, and ye visited me. I was in prison, and ye came unto me. Then shall the righteous answer him, saying, Lord, when saw we an hungered, and fed thee, or thirsty, and we gave thee drink? When saw we thee a stranger, and took thee in, or naked, and we clothed thee? Or when saw we thee sick, or in prison, and came unto thee? And the king shall answer and say unto them, Verily I say unto you, inasmuch as ye have done it unto the least of these my brethren, ye have done it unto me. Then shall he say unto them on the left hand, Depart from me, ye cursed, into the everlasting fire, prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was an hungered, and ye gave me no meat. I was thirsty, and ye gave me no drink. I was a stranger, and ye took me not in. Naked, and ye clothed me not. Sick, and in prison, and ye visited me not. Then shall ye answer unto him, saying, Lord, when saw thee an hungered, or a thirsty, or a thirst, or a stranger, or naked, or sick, or in prison, and did not minister unto thee? Then shall he answer them, saying, Verily I say unto you, inasmuch as ye did not to one of the least of these my brethren, ye did it not unto me. And these shall go away into everlasting punishment, but the righteous into life eternal. We have gifts beyond measure. At that day, do you want to be on the right hand or on the left? I'm not sure about you, but I like to make excuses in my head when I see people that are in need. In my reading of Christ's ministry on earth, I didn't typically see him making excuses for those who were the weak and the oppressed. My hope and my prayer is that each of us will pick up our cross and follow him. That we'll do his will and that we will be his ambassadors to all people. Whether they're people that are like us, whether they're people that aren't like us, whether they're people with wealth or means, whether they're people that are poor and needy. That we will be his hands and feet.